Are we recording or not?
This is my thesis performance of Searching for Susan, A Lost Tale of a Daughter of Eve. And thank you for all for coming. I just want to let you know that there will be a reception, a short reception, and a talk back right in this space after the performance for feedback and just if you have any questions. So feel free to, I encourage you all to partake in that performance. Thank you.
It is summer, and the grass is a vivid, surreal shade of green. A wholesome green, like a cricket pitch, or the welcoming slope of the South Downs as you make your way north from the coast. I find myself on the edge of a battlefield, my siblings at my side. There are bodies on the grass, none of them human. They are scattered like discarded toys, as if some gargantuan child has grown tired of his playthings. Cowmen, walking trees, satyrs, strange, unknowable, unthinkable bodies. I walk to the nearest one, a centaur, its neck slit. His horse half is a rich chestnut. His human skin is nut brown from the sun. I find myself staring at the horse's penis. I can't help but wonder how centaurs mate, what it must be like to be kissed by that bearded face. Rough whisker against soft, pearly skin. My eyes cut the slit across his throat, and the sticky red-black pool that stains the pristine grass. The field is an ironic shade of green, the virginal green, innocent in its vibrancy. The wildflowers bloomed yesterday for the first time in years. All this was snow but days ago. Always winter and never Christmas. Above me, on the brow of the green hill, they stand in deep conversation. The lion is golden and magnificent. He stands in stolid silence as the witch, dressed all in white, shouts at him. I cannot make out any of their words, but I can feel the chill of her cold anger and the deep reverberations of his thoughtful responses. As her face contorts in frigid fury, I am fixated on the witch. Her hair is black and shiny. Her lips are an intoxicating red. They will soon finish their conversation, the lion and the witch. Yes, of course. No need for such formalities. You may call me Miss Hastings.
It's a pleasure to meet you.
Yes, I'm sure it is. Come in, dear. We'll be in the sitting room. May I help you with that?
Oh, yes, I brought you this. I baked it myself. It's chocolate. I read online that you like chocolate, chiefly in a non-stop capacity. I'm not trying to be dodgy or anything. I'm just very thorough.
I see. How kind. This way. Stay here. I'll be right back with the tea.
Is there anything I can help you with?
No, I'm quite all right. I might as well call the mortician if I can't at least serve tea in my own home.
Well, Professor Hastings, let me first say that I'm very honored to be meeting with you. I read your book on C.S. Lewis at university. I enjoyed your book immensely.
I'm glad you liked it. That was not the uniform response to my work when it was first published. This was before it became en vogue to study children's fiction as scholarship.
Really? Your book legitimized all my passion for children's fiction. I felt like a child reading those books again at my age, but your book helped me to realize how important those stories are to me.
I'm glad to have inspired such devotion. Did you pursue children's literature in your studies?
No, I switched to journalism. Literature was a bit intense for me.
I see.
Oh, do you mind if I record this? It's strictly for transcription purposes. I suppose now's as good a time to start as any. Professor Hastings, you are one of the most lauded scholars of children's fiction in Great Britain, some say the world. The literary world is brimming with excitement at the pending release of your new book, A Quest for Meaning in Children's Fiction by S.P. Hastings. By the way, I was wondering, what does the S.P. stand for?
I do not see how that is relevant. S.P. Hastings has been my published name since the beginning of my career. I do not intend on changing that policy now.
Oh, yes, of course, I just thought it a bit strange.
Yes, strange indeed for a woman scholar wanting her work to be read for its own sake. You may find it interesting, Miss Campion, that the publisher of my first book considered pulling it from production after discovering my gender. I'm sure you can understand why I would prefer to maintain my published name as my primary external persona.
Yes, of course, I'm sorry, that was silly of me. I thought your book was brilliant, Nobel-worthy even. Your passion for children's literature is very evident in your work. Where does this interest come from?
Miss Campion, there is no reason to go on hyperbolizing as such. I'm flattered, but I'm no literary genius, just an old professor with too much time on her hands. To answer your question, when I was growing up, the books I read as a child were the ones that allowed me to escape. I continued to read those books in my adulthood. I suppose I was drawn to utopian moralistic worlds that always ended happily.
It's interesting that you mentioned morality. I remember you wrote a very pointed critique of C.S. Lewis's use of morality in his Chronicles of Narnia. Lewis's stark concern for the moral decay of society, emblematic in his treatment of the character of Susan, is ironic at best. Susan is refused admittance into paradise for her proclivity for lipstick and nylons and party invitations, a clear jab at the emergence of a more liberated female sexuality in the late 1950s. However, Lewis remained a bachelor for years to come. One must wonder why a man who was a perpetual virgin had so many disparaging things to say about women's sexuality, a concept he had very little first-hand experience with. It's a bit cutting, isn't it?
I see you've done your research, Miss Campion. I did not realize it was customary to take passages out of context, but I suppose all's fair and all. I was much more fiery when I wrote that book. It was my doctoral thesis, and the chair of the department had been a good friend of Lewis's, so he clearly did not support my efforts at engaging a feminist critique of the author we had all come to know and hold so dearly. But I concede it was a bit of a low blow for me to cite his sexual history.
Well, why critique the Narnia books, especially when children's literature wasn't a respected field of study?
Well, it's because I love those books. I still do. Lewis, for all his moralistic allegory, was a great writer. His authorial voice is enrapturing. We all can see bits of ourselves in his work. Fantastic as the situations may be, there's a bit of Lucy and Edmund in all of us.
And Susan.
Susan most of all. Lewis wrote for the skeptic, the pragmatist, the rational non-believer. Lewis writes most pointedly to the Susan in us.
So, has children's fiction always meant a lot to you?
Well, yes. My childhood was a bit of a roller coaster. It was an escape, one that I enjoyed with my siblings. Not sure if that answers your question. How do any of us come to care for anything? Tell me, Miss Campion, where does your interest in children's literature come from?
Well, I suppose they were books that were most important to me, the ones that mattered. When I was a kid and when I grew up, I was like dolls and children. My nose was always in a book. My brothers and sisters were all very energetic, running around outside, playing games. Not me, I was the book girl. I remember. I used to become so engrossed in the real book I was reading that I would not even call me my name, I would get to eat, and my brothers and sisters, they used to tease me. But not my mum. She was always very supportive of my reading. I mean, I think she saw a bit of herself in me.